Hi there, beautiful soul. In the previous podcast that I uploaded on YouTube and Spotify, I talk about surfing the waves of recovery. That sometimes during a good period, I'd like to create a down, to release the stressor again, to create an up again, and then to really surf the waves. And in good periods, or when you are in an activity, you can trigger a stressor that is inside of you and that can come up, and the resistance towards that can create all kinds of symptoms, all kinds of secondary stressors as well, from resisting, fighting reality, fighting the emotion, fighting, well, basically anything, symptoms as well. So I've been trying in the last couple months to really find the root behind developing a chronic disease like ME/CFS, Lyme, fibromyalgia, long COVID, or whatever it is that people identify with. And every time I just stumble upon the belief system of unworthiness, not good enough, being unlovable. And to avoid feeling those feelings, people tend to involve themselves in all kinds of coping mechanisms. So a coping mechanism is a behavior to avoid feeling, and it is always then with the goal from the mind to overcompensate or distract or well, hide from a feeling, so to speak. So a coping mechanism could be getting control, getting people to like you, so people pleasing, or perfectionism. And behind these coping mechanisms, there is a lot of pressure, of course, because it's very vital for you to cope right. Because as soon as you don't do it right, you can project the fears that are there as well on the situations that you did not good enough, or that you didn't please people the right way, or that you didn't, well, whatever. There's a lot of pressure behind doing a coping mechanism. And eventually, especially in a period of a chronic disease, you come to the point where you can't cope with it any longer. So running away from it, overcompensating or distracting, denying, which resembles fight, flight, or hide, very stressful, doesn't work any longer. Well, people are very stressed at that moment because then they get confronted with the stressor. So they can involve themselves in doing some sort of brain retraining, neuroplasticity thing, where you imagine yourself to calm down. But of course, the calming down technique here can be a coping mechanism as well to gain some control back. And then you can blame yourself and feel guilty if you don't do it rightly. And then, well, then we're in a toxic situation again. So you can do those things to calm down, of course, if you believe that, well, if you find out that, a stressful nervous system is the cause behind the chronic disease, then calming down seems logical. But what I found over and over again is that calming down in that situation doesn't really help you, because it's again a forceful, stressful coping mechanism that you apply on a situation. And you can't cope normally with it anymore as well. So, and yes, I do like to calm down. I do like those things. But after the work that I talk about in my recovery program as well, that you can do it via donations. That it no longer works. You can't keep up with the old persona that copes with everything. And you identified probably with the person that you were, who was very good at coping. But you can't do it any longer. And for many people, well, almost for everyone, the brain retraining techniques are also not really working. So what else can you do then? And I've started to become a big fan of the worst case scenario. So okay, let's say you are feeling worthless. You are feeling like shit. You are feeling like nobody loves you and you're unlovable. Great. Let's just dive into that. You can do it yourself as well. Feel how it is. Nobody loves you. How old is the inner child? And we talk more about that in the 8th module. So the inner child, how old is the inner child? And pretend or connect with that age that you once were. This child that was afraid that nobody loves her, that nobody loved him, that you were unworthy, just basically not being worth looked at even. That's a fear that you can have. Let's really dive into it. Make it the worst case scenario. Okay, your parents abandoned you because you're unlovable. Great. Now you're living on the street. Great. Maybe you're afraid that people abuse you. Yeah, let it happen in your imagination. So you don't have to fight it anymore because it already happened. You can really feel the fears through. Really be with it. Feel it. Start shivering. Start finding the place where the fears are, and make the worst case scenario happen in your mind towards your inner child. And then you actually find out that it is a relief, because you no longer have to fight the worst case scenario. You no longer have to fight these feelings of unworthiness, because you are unworthy. And then, at least at that moment, when you stop fighting it, when you stop running away from yourselves by, let's say, people pleasing or perfectionism, then the only one you actually have at that moment is yourself. So yes, you're unworthy, but you have yourself. And you don't have to run away with all these coping mechanisms. You no longer have to prove yourself, because yeah, you are there. And that is such a big relief. But also it turns the whole thing around, because now you actually feel worthy because you look at yourself. And maybe the running away from yourself was making things worse, because the more you run away from yourself, the more you gave yourself the message that you were unworthy, unlovable, because you didn't love yourself. You didn't see yourself as worthy. Otherwise, you didn't have to prove to the outside world that you are, right? So now, you did not only look and process the fears, but you actually also reversed it. Now you are worthy because you actually look at yourself. And now you actually start to love yourself from that pit where you're in. Homeless, living on the street, being abused, being hurt, maybe being killed several times, whatever. You felt it through. You felt the fear, you looked it in the eye. And that moment, you can bring back the truth about your true being. Because the reason why the emotions and the thoughts were there was all raised because you believed in an illusion. The illusion that your love was outside of yourself. The illusion that you needed someone else, which could be very true for a little child, but not for who you are right now. There are so many illusions that we believe, and life confirms us. We see life through our beliefs. So we have to bring back something. And we can bring back it partially, the truth. But you can also go really cold turkey, bring back the truth of who you really are. And after you felt your fear, you actually know that you don't have to be afraid. Nothing can hurt you. And that's what I felt as well in recovery, in the worst case moments in life, worst types of scenarios. Because, I've lived the worst case scenario. People with chronic fatigue syndrome are actually almost in the worst case scenario. And if they lose the fear against that, then maybe you also stop the resistance towards the symptoms, and you actually calm down. And that's what you actually wanted from doing neuroplasticity technique in the first place. And I found out that being unlovable is complete bullshit. Being unworthy is complete bullshit. And the belief system that anybody else can hurt you whatsoever is an illusion as well. And that's because we still don't understand what we're here, why we are here, and what this actually is, this creation that we're living in, and who we really are. And we have to bring back the reality of this divine place that we're living in, and these divine bodies that we're living in, with the divine souls that we're living in. And we can't be hurt. We're untouchable. We're sovereign. We don't have to do anything we don't want. Yes, people can kill you for that. But the real you won't be hurt, won't be affected by anything. Because the real you is amazing. It doesn't need any of those stuff. The real you can leave behind any illusion about a limited self or a limited life and a limited body. Life is so much greater. That's the truth that we have to get back to us. And in coaching sessions, I can help you with it. And there are a lot of other emotional treatments or stuff that we can do. And you can also just do the alignment recovery program, do it yourself. And it starts small with dealing with symptoms, and maybe dealing with the beliefs. The second module is about beliefs. And maybe you understand more now why the second module is about beliefs. Because if you bring back the truth of who you really are, it starts with destroying a belief. I wish you a beautiful day. Bye.